Like 5 minutes into this movie, I realized I was running the risk of becoming that guy. You know that guy, whenever he sees a pop culture reference in a movie, he has to point it out, like, oh, it's RoboCop, oh, look at that, Paul McCartney was in Pirates. If you guys go see Ready Player One this weekend, please don't be that guy. So Ready Player One is the newest movie directed by Steven Spielberg, and it stars Ty Sheridan as Wade Watts. He lives in the future of 2045, 46, somewhere around there, and in that future, everyone is involved with this thing called the Oasis. It's this virtual reality system where you can be anyone, do anything. It's where the world now does all their education, all of their jobs. I mean, the real world still has schools and jobs and stuff, but for the most part, everything is now in the Oasis. The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday, a child of the 80s who has recently passed away, and he said, hey, when I died, I left this big golden Easter egg, and whoever finds it inherits all my wealth and gets entire control over the Oasis. And since everybody is totally engrossed with this thing, pretty much if you have ownership of the Oasis, you are in charge of the free world. So Wade is a teenager who's trying to win the contest. There's an evil corporation called IOI led by Ben Mendelsohn who's also trying to win the contest. And also little groups and pockets of teenagers and other gunters, which is the name of the people that hunt for the treasure. So kind of like Willy Wonka, which this is based off a massively popular book by Ernest Cline. It's a book that I've read about like a third of the book. I've been meaning to read this book for years, and I meant to do it before the movie came out. I just ran out of time. But even from the little bit I've read, I can tell you the movie is nothing like the book. So diehard fans of the book might be a little disappointed with this movie. However, I found what I got despite the changes that I knew about. I thought this movie was really fun. This is a return to form for Spielberg. It's something that I wanted to see when he made the BFG. You know, Steven Spielberg, he rose up in the 70s and 80s, basically pioneered the blockbuster with movies like Jaws and E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic Park later in the 90s. And lately, Spielberg has been doing a lot of dramas, which is fine. He's done The Post and Bridge of Spies and Lincoln, all of which are good movies. But when I think Spielberg, I think of something like this, something that reawakens that joy of being a kid and enjoying life and playing video games. Well, in the case of Ready Player One and video games, not so much with the other movies, but like that sense of adventure. And that's ultimately what I got with this movie. I had a really fun time with it. Ty Sheridan is a guy that I've been rooting for a while, partially because we have the same name, but also just, you know, he showed up in Mud, and I was like, this kid's really good. I thought X-Men was going to be the one that kind of launched him to superstardom. That wasn't it. But I hope Ready Player One does it, because I thought he was great in this movie. He was a very relatable character. He doesn't come from much. He's the total underdog in this whole story. All he really has is his knowledge of Halliday's life and Halliday's love of pop culture, and that's what's able to give him the edge over everybody else, the way he's able to solve all of these riddles hidden throughout the Oasis. Other characters include Olivia Cooke playing another avatar named Artemis and his friend H. Ben Mendelsohn plays the villain of this movie, Nolan Sorrento, who is the leader of IOI. And I feel like with Ben Mendelsohn, like, we know the guy plays a good villain, but I feel like all of his villains are different. Like John Daggett from The Dark Knight Rises is not like Orson Krennic from Rogue One, and Orson Krennic is not like Nolan Sorrento. They're all a little bit different. I feel like here he's a little more of a Spielbergian villain. Spielbergian, is that a word? It is now. Think like Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Hook. And he plays up that Spielberg-style adult villain so well. He goes so well against Spielberg's like kid heroes. Other standouts of this movie is Mark Rylance playing James Halliday, the guy that created the Oasis. I first noticed Mark Rylance when he won the Oscar over Stallone for Bridge of Spies, and I was like, who's this guy? Stallone deserved the Oscar. But since then, being in things like the BFG and Dunkirk and now Ready Player One, the guy is just like, he's impressed me more and more every single time. And in this movie, I thought he was hilarious. Simon Pegg was also really good in the movie. Lena Waithe, who I won't tell you who she plays, but she was good in the movie. And TJ Miller plays this guy named IROC. Now, if you've read the book, this version of IROC is really nothing like the version in the book, but he was hilarious because without spoiling anything, if you've ever played video games online, you know you've seen a guy like IROC. And TJ Miller just has the perfect voice for that kind of character. I'm really trying not to spoil much with that character, but it was really good. And the score for this movie was awesome. It's one of those few Spielberg movies where John Williams did not compose the score. You know, he was off doing The Post and Star Wars at the time, so Spielberg brought in Alan Silvestri, who's also just one of the best composers of our time. It's funny because John Williams to Steven Spielberg is kind of like what Alan Silvestri is to Robert Zemeckis. So with a couple of the musical cues in this movie, I almost felt like I was watching a Robert Zemeckis movie. But Zemeckis and Spielberg are similar enough anyways that the whole thing just meshed really well. This is definitely not a flawless movie. There are problems with it. It feels rushed because they're trying to compact this whole book into a movie. Especially in that first hour, everything felt pretty rushed. And I thought I wasn't really going to dig the look of this movie because it is very CGI, obviously, because they're in this virtual reality world. And I thought that was going to annoy me. I thought I was going to feel like I'm just watching a video game, even though I technically am just watching a video game. But it all really worked for me, both the live action stuff and the Oasis stuff. I know on the back of the book it says, this book's like Willy Wonka meets The Matrix, and I feel like the movie is like that, but I'd also throw Wreck-It Ralph in there. And the reason Wreck-It Ralph in particular is because Wreck-It Ralph does have a lot of pop culture references. What I like about Wreck-It Ralph and Ready Player One is that it doesn't feel like they're just throwing references out there for the sake of references. Like, you know in Wreck-It Ralph, when he's first walking through Game Central Station, you see Sonic and you see Q*bert. You're seeing all of these characters, but it doesn't really distract you. Like, there is that second where you're like, oh, that's Sonic the Hedgehog. But at the same time, your brain's like, but it all fits. And in Ready Player One, yeah, there are a lot of pop culture references, but I feel like all of it fits. There was nothing that felt really out of place for me. Honestly, Ready Player One's one of those movies I like the more I think about it. I saw it last night, it's gotten better and better since then. And I don't feel like you have to be a fan of video games to like this movie, because there's also, you know, like movie references and whatnot. And even if you get none of the references, I still think it's a solid movie. It has a fun sense of discovery and adventure and action. And it also has a good message at the end about virtual reality versus actual reality, and is there a place for virtual reality? Is there a point when you can go too far with it? Is there still stuff in this world that's worth living through? You know, good themes like that. So definitely go see Ready Player One. The movie is not tracking well financially for the weekend. I think it's expecting like 42 million for a 4-day weekend, which for a movie this big, it's not really that great. So go see it, because I want to support Steven Spielberg, especially when he makes these big action adventure movies like he used to make, and because I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this movie. So hopefully the movie makes its money back and we get that, because that'd be great. But if you guys have seen Ready Player One, let me know what you think of it down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys liked it, you can click subscribe and check out some of my other videos, and I'll catch you guys next time.